When it comes to affordable electric cars, most people picture battery life, range, and price. But for those who will spend hours behind the wheel, especially older drivers, what really matters is the interior. How will the body fit in the seat after 3 hours on the road? Is the legroom uncomfortable? Does the backrest provide relief or become a punishment? These questions become even more important when the car is one of the most anticipated on the market, like the Tesla Model 2. And despite all the anticipation surrounding the technology and price, the Model 2's true test may come right there, between the seat and the dashboard, where the driver experiences the car every day. The choice of similar proportions to the Model 3 is no coincidence. Tesla knows it already got the basics right with this previous model, so the Model 2 tends to repeat the formula with tweaks. The seat width, between 54 and 56 centimeters, seems comfortable enough for most users, even taller ones. This figure isn't impressive at first glance, but when compared to models like the Toyota Corolla, which hovers around 55 centimeters, you realize that the Tesla meets the global comfort standard. And that's where things start to get interesting, because comfort isn't just about width, it's about ergonomics too. The seat back tilt, estimated between 12 degrees and 15 degrees, may seem like a technical detail, but in practice, it makes all the difference for your lower back, especially on long trips. A poorly calibrated angle can turn a 2-hour commute into a nightmare. Tesla hasn't yet confirmed adjustments for lumbar support or thigh extension, which could be a game-changer for the over 50 demographic. And if it decides to skimp on these details, it could cost it significant points in direct comparisons with Japanese rivals, which traditionally have strong performance in these areas. One area where the Model 2 could be a positive surprise is the seat height from the ground. Expected to be somewhere between 460 and 470 millimeters, this means easier entry and exit, a relief for tired knees. Many Chinese compact cars have lower seats, which can be a problem for those with limited mobility. This small difference may seem insignificant on paper, but in everyday use, it matters a lot, especially for those who drive in urban areas and need to get in and out of the car several times a day. In the rear seat, the flat floor is a quiet advantage. Without the central tunnel, which steals space from the middle passenger's feet, the Model 2 offers a more democratic and functional environment. This design decision, made possible by the position of the batteries, demonstrates a practical focus that goes beyond aesthetics. Even without confirming the foam level of the rear seats, this structural detail alone puts the Model 2 ahead of conventional sedans like the Corolla, which still has an uncomfortable bump right in the middle. Rear space also benefits from the elongated base, with an estimated 2.7-meter wheelbase, almost identical to the Corolla. This should ensure knee room between the front seats in the range of 925 in 90 and 940 millimeters. For those who frequently carry adult passengers in the back seat or use the car for family trips, this is golden. But there's no point having space if the foam density is too firm. And here comes a legitimate question. Will Tesla soften the typical rigidity of its seats, which work well on short trips but aren't convincing on long journeys? Japanese cars like the Honda Civic and the Corolla have a history of prioritizing soft foam and consistent comfort. Tesla, on the other hand, has yet to demonstrate that it has learned to balance support with softness. Older drivers can quickly sense whether a seat hugs or pushes. Binds this invisible detail, the type of padding and its distribution, could make or break the Model 2 for a large portion of the public transitioning to electric vehicles for the first time. The idea of putting everything on a single 15-inch central screen sounds modern, even futuristic. But for those who've spent much of their lives staring at analog dials and physical buttons, this change may seem more of a barrier than an innovation. Tesla is betting that a clean layout with fewer visual distractions makes it easier to use. However, not everyone adapts at the same speed. When an older driver has to turn their head to the side just to check their speed, it's inevitable to wonder, is this really more practical? Or is it just cheaper to manufacture? The screen resolution is impressive, 1920 x 1200 pixels and a brightness of nearly 1000 nits. It's sharp, responsive, and feels like a high-performance tablet stuck in the middle of the dashboard. The system runs at 60 Hz, with a latency of under 50 milliseconds. All this ensures responsive touch, quick commands, and a fluid experience. But the lack of a traditional screen behind the steering wheel leaves a gap that's hard to ignore. In other cars, a glance down is enough to tell your speed, range, and even whether the headlights are on. In the Model 2, everything requires a sideways glance. Japanese automakers like Toyota and Honda still rely on combinations of digital displays and physical instruments. And they do so for a simple reason. It's what works for most people. In the Corolla, for example, there's still an analog speedometer next to a 7-inch digital screen. In the Civic, a 10.2-inch cluster sits squarely in the center of the field of view. This allows the driver to simultaneously access important information without shifting their focus from the road. In the Model 2, everything is concentrated on a single screen. Visual simplicity may be appealing, but it comes at a price in terms of usability. There's also the issue of redundancy. In Japanese cars, you can view the map on the dashboard and simultaneously adjust the sound without one function interfering with the other. In the Model 2, you'll need to split the same screen. The promise is that the split-screen interface will be intuitive enough to avoid confusion. But the real test comes in practice, when the driver is dealing with rain, traffic, and rush hour. One wrong touch can become a nuisance, not to mention essential controls that have also gone digital, such as adjusting the air conditioning or windshield wipers. Tesla relies on the system's responsiveness and the user's common sense. But what if your finger slips? What if the light's reflection makes it difficult to read? In cars with physical buttons, adjusting the temperature or activating the rear defroster requires only a tactile gesture, almost automatic. In the Model 2, it becomes a sequence of taps. It may be cleaner visually, but it's less intuitive for those who have been driving for decades. And for many older drivers, any extra step to perform a simple task can be irritating or distracting. Another relevant detail is the lack of haptic feedback. With physical buttons, you feel the click. On a screen, there's no sensory response. This may seem silly, but in risky situations, the human body acts instinctively. Feeling the button is different from just seeing it. Tesla seems to believe that minimalist design is synonymous with efficiency, and perhaps it is for those born swiping on screens. But for those who learn to drive with a radio, with a rotary knob and a needle-type speedometer, this leap can be too abrupt. This isn't about rejecting the new. Far from it. The evolution of the digital dashboard is inevitable. But the question is, does this new digital model better serve those behind the wheel? Or does it simply cut costs and create a sense of modernity? The promise of a simpler interior with fewer distractions hits a nerve. Sometimes, too much simplicity takes away from practicality, especially for an audience that wants ease, not a new learning curve. Inside a car, silence and thermal comfort aren't just luxuries. They've become necessities as the years go by. In the case of the Model 2, Tesla seems to have understood this, at least in part. The climate control system is expected to use the same concept as the brand's more expensive models: hidden air vents that distribute the airflow evenly without direct, annoying jets. This may seem like a design detail, but in practice, it ensures a smoother, more consistent feeling of freshness, something especially valued by drivers more sensitive to sudden temperature changes. Tesla's current cooling system delivers about 5 to 5.5 phi of cooling, comparable to the air conditioning in an average apartment. If the Model 2 maintains this capacity, it will position itself very well against its competitors in the same segment. And if a PM2.5 PM2.5 filter is included, as in some versions of the Model 3. The benefit is twofold: thermal comfort and air quality, essential for those driving in large cities with high levels of pollution. The question, of course, is whether Tesla will be able to maintain all these features within the more affordable price proposition. When it comes to comfort, cabin heating also comes into play. Tesla already uses an efficient heat pump in the Model 3 and Y, capable of heating the interior with lower energy consumption than older resistive systems. In practical terms, this could mean heating the interior from 0 degrees to 20 degrees in about 8 to 10 minutes. If this feature is adapted for the Model 2, it would become a clear advantage over hybrid competitors, which often rely on the combustion engine to generate heat, increasing waiting time and fuel consumption. Another interesting feature is the cabin preconditioning via app. While the car is still in the garage or parking lot, the driver can activate the system and find everything air-conditioned before even getting in. For seniors or those with low tolerance to cold or heat, this makes a huge difference. Besides improving the experience, it saves time and reduces the stress of dealing with uncomfortable environments, especially on extreme days. It's a small convenience that, in everyday life, becomes a powerful selling point. But it's not all sunshine and roses. Soundproofing is still a challenge in electric vehicles, even the most expensive ones. The silence of the electric motor further highlights external noises: tires, wind, vibrations. The Model 3, for example, registers between 70 and 72 decibels at 100 km/h, while a Toyota Corolla is closer to 68 dB. This difference, while seemingly small on paper, can make a long trip tiring, especially for those with sensitive hearing. Every noise is amplified when the rest is silent. To get around this, Tesla could resort to solutions already used in its higher-end models: reinforced sealing, double glazing, and suspension adjustments to reduce road noise. But all of this costs money, and we're talking about a car that promises to cost under $25,000. The math of comfort conflicts with the logic of economics. The question remains: what will be sacrificed to keep the price low? And what will be maintained to ensure an experience worthy of the Tesla name? On 200 or 300-kilometer trips, any minor inconvenience becomes amplified. A noise that seems mild on a trip around the block can become exhausting after 2 hours. Airflow that initially seemed adequate can become uncomfortable if poorly distributed. This is the reality in which the Model 2 will be judged, especially by those who value continuous comfort. And in this field, promising specs aren't enough. It's the sensory impact that counts. The anticipation is high. And now the question is whether Tesla will be able to balance elegant design, sensory comfort, and budget constraints within the Model 2. The promise of a car that's both affordable and comfortable is bold. But like any car, what really matters isn't the horsepower or battery capacity. It's the driver's experience, the quiet that accompanies the road, and the air that circulates effortlessly within the cabin. The decision to eliminate physical buttons, traditional clusters, and even foam seat cushions isn't random. It stems from a clear cost-cutting logic. Tesla knows that to make the Model 2 competitive in the entry-level segment, it will need to cut wherever it can. And every button removed, every screen replaced with software, every simplification in the finish represents a significant savings per unit. The problem is that these cuts aren't always invisible, and when they affect daily use, the car's perception as modern and efficient can quickly become economical and cumbersome. By removing the dashboard behind the steering wheel, Tesla saves on components, assembly time, and even internal wiring. This could represent savings of hundreds of dollars per car, a significant factor in mass production. But it's also a risky gamble. What if the public misses precisely what was removed? The risk increases when we're talking about drivers accustomed to years of analog instruments, who appreciate being able to see their speed at a glance without having to divert their attention to the center of the dashboard. The same logic applies to the controls for the air conditioning, headlights, and wipers. Instead of buttons, everything is concentrated on the touchscreen. It looks modern, and it is. But during a sudden downpour, or when the windows start to fog up, is it really practical to have to navigate through menus to find the desired function? Eliminating physical buttons provides visual clarity, but it also requires more attention from the driver, something that can become a dangerous distraction. Tesla believes most users will adapt quickly, especially younger ones. But the Model 2 isn't just for this demographic. On the contrary, the affordable car segment tends to attract older drivers, retirees, or those looking for a reliable second car. For these, the learning curve may not be so simple, and what seems elegant to some may be frustrating to others. Functional design needs to speak to real-world use, not just minimalist trends. Another cost savings that could impact comfort is the lack of finer adjustments in the seats. Features like adjustable lumbar support or a seat extension for thigh support are common in similarly sized Japanese cars. If Tesla opts for a simpler seat structure to cut costs, this could directly affect driver well-being on long trips. These are details that aren't always listed in the specifications sheet, but they make a huge difference in everyday use, especially for those who drive for hours. These choices present a classic dilemma: functionality versus economy. Tesla is betting that the brand's appeal, combined with its competitive price and onboard technology, will be enough to convince the public to forego certain comforts. But this only works if practical use doesn't become a barrier. If the driving experience is irritating, complex, or uncomfortable, the effect can be the opposite. What was supposed to be the most desired entry-level electric car can become the most avoided. The question here isn't whether Tesla knows how to make technology. That's already more than proven. The real test will be delivering a cohesive experience within a tight budget, without compromising the essence of what makes a car enjoyable. Cutting the excess is smart. Cutting the necessary is dangerous. And the Model 2 is exactly at that balance point, where every engineering decision directly affects consumer perception. The challenge, then, isn't just to build a cheap electric car. It's to build a car that feels complete even while being simple. That has the essentials without feeling incomplete. That wins you over through experience, not just the logo on the hood. The Model 2 could be that car, but only if Tesla gets it right about what to keep and what can actually be left behind. More than any spec sheet or acceleration data, what will define the Model 2's success is the daily experience of those behind the wheel. Especially for more experienced drivers who have driven many cars throughout their lives, the question has never been simply, how much does it get per charge? But rather, how do I feel driving this every day? And that's where Tesla needs to show it has learned from the past and understands that sometimes a soft seat, an intuitive display, and well-designed silence are worth more than a 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. Think about a typical 300-kilometer commute. It's no epic road trip, but it's enough to expose any discomfort. If the seat isn't well designed, your lower back will suffer. If the air conditioning is difficult to adjust, the trip will become a sauna or a freezer. If the tire noise permeates the cabin too much, your favorite soundtrack will fade into the background. It's these details, often overlooked in advertising, that determine whether a car will be loved or abandoned after a few months of use.